The Egyptians have the same stories of the many levels of the Duat. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, the earth was thought to be flat and oval-shaped and surrounded by oceans. Underneath this earth lay the vast expanse of the underworld, which also had the primordial waters of Nun running through them, which is very similar to the Hebrews' Sheol and the Great Deep, and maybe where the Hebrews got that from. The Romans and Greeks had Hades and Tartarus. We think of the underworld as some dimension, who knows where dead souls go for judgment or retribution. But the very word itself literally means the place under our world, what some people might call Hollow Earth, or the legendary Agartha, the land of the advanced races. But race implies actual physical beings, not spirits. We have myths of master-crafting dwarves working in the forges deep below our mountains, and even the Hopi stories of surviving a cataclysm by hiding under the earth with the ant people. A large portion of UFO sightings claim these crafts come in and out of mountainsides or volcanoes, and even come flying out of the oceans and crashing back in, defying all known laws of physics. The Celtic lores of fairies abducting women and children and taking them down to their underground fairy dens is remarkably similar to the so-called modern alien abduction phenomenon. The two most common threads among the stories of people claiming to be abductees is that there is some kind of breeding or genetic purpose to these abductions, and that they are either shown telepathically or are conveyed the feeling that this is because they are part of some kind of future after an apocalyptic event, and their genetics or hybrid offspring will be part of the new future. Very similar, in fact, to the Hopi story of the ant people choosing to save them to carry on after just such a cataclysm. Then there are the bizarre stories and conspiracy claims that governments are secretly working with the Greys in the deep underground military bases, breeding programs, technology trading, the list goes on and on. Phil Schneider even claimed we've accidentally dug into Grey lairs while drilling these bases and had military skirmishes with them. Of course, the whole phenomenon could be a mixture of orchestrated rabbit hole diversions and the attention-seeking fantasies of the lunatic fringe. But is it just possible that fairies and greys are real, are not extraterrestrial, but terrestrial, and are the workers who run the machines down in the underworld? Maybe UFOs are just their maintenance shuttles, and maybe they are in fact tasked with exactly what the Hopis and abductees claim, some kind of genetic update or program to get a certain amount of people ready to live in some kind of drastically different future reality. The stereotypical description of these creatures, their hive-minded behavior, and advanced technology certainly suits a subterranean worker drone. If you spend time on Google Earth, you'll notice the oceans of the world are riddled with perfect, unnatural geometric grids and what look like long tunnels, pipes, or roads, very much like you'd expect to see in a machine. Even this one leading from the sunken island of Friesland to this strange area. What are those? You may want to revisit parts 3 through 5 of this film after this final section, which is Brian Austin Lambert's theory of the EMPCO, electromagnetic plasma changeover event, which coincides with a lot of the occult Masonic subliminal references throughout this film. We'll put a link to his 3-hour film and try like Jesus to sum up the nuts and bolts in the next 10 minutes. It is the marriage of the flat earth and electric universe theory, with a twist, literally. Like NASA and Inez Perry, Brian maintains that we live on a flat, non-rotating Earth. In his model, the dome is made of ice from an electromagnetic current, which separates the biblical waters above it from the waters down here, and the ice ring around the edge, as the waters are frozen at the points closest to the electromagnetic energy dome, just as Inez Perry postulated. Since energy never fails to take a circular course. However, the sun is not moving. Only the angular light refraction from its true moving plasma source makes it appear that way. Let's explain. Here again, we have a chicken or the egg conundrum, where neither can exist without each other, as both define each other's existence. Some call this phenomenon God. Alfvén proposed the galaxy is plasma that carries the electric currents which create a large-scale magnetic field in which charged particles move in spiral orbits within it. Lambert claims that plasma is really the first state of matter, and that electromagnetic energy converts to plasma through a magnetic bowl structure. How can electromagnetic energy create plasma when plasma creates the magnetic field which converts energy to plasma via a magnetic bowl structure created by plasma electricity? Somebody is full of bullshit. But this magnetic bowl confines and condenses the energy into matter by temperature, hot to cold, which comes from...
Confused? You won't be after this episode of So.
Brian maintains that the real power source of our sun is what NASA calls the red rectangular nebula, somewhere in or beyond the biblical waters above, and that ancients used to see it in the sky before the last EMCO event, that we will see it again up there after this coming one, and that it is the true source of the Masonic symbol of the pyramid and all-seeing eye, as well as the 3 Abrahamic religions. 6 connected pyramids make the cube of Islam and Judaism. Unfold the cube and you get the cross of Christianity. He maintains that this red pyramid structure is an electromagnetic formation which causes plasma to be formed, which revolves around the pyramid, becomes illuminated and condenses, and then flows through the electromagnetic field structure towards us in a spiral vortex shape, wider at the nebula and narrower at our dome, drawn magnetically to our electromagnetic field and ice dome. He suggests our electromagnetic dome repulses the plasma spiral's heat away so the dome doesn't melt, but the clear distilled ice allows the light from the inner energized plasma coil to enter and refract through the dome to a convergence point between the dome and the Earth in the sky, like a magnifying glass or a convergent photonic laser, which is where the real heat is, and then that hot concentrated light point diverges back out and down on us, unlike the Death Star laser. Plasma is a fluid, and Birkeland currents flow in the shape of a spiral from the right-hand rule of electricity. If a current is flowing from our ground to the sky, the electric field rotates counterclockwise or west to east. But since this alleged current is flowing from the red rectangle nebula toward us, then it would be spinning clockwise or east to west, just as the sun does. His theory is that since these plasma currents not only spiral, but expand, contract, and pulse in intensity, that this current spirals around the dome once every 24 hours, and that the angular refracted optics make the light focal point in our sky go around in a circle. A disco ball has one non-moving source light, but the ball moves. And so if you were to follow any one of the reflected light focal points on the wall, you would notice it moves along the wall even though the source light doesn't move. In his model, the disco ball or ice dome is not moving, but the spiraling circle plasma current light source is instead moving around the ball. But instead of reflecting onto an outer surface like a wall, it's refracting to a focal point in the sky that we just perceive as a sun circling over our head from our vantage point below. So nighttime is just the absence of the sun refraction focal point, since the light-emitting part of the plasma spiral is on the other side of the dome. But then, what's all this and what's moving it? His model is based on the Hebrew model in Old Testament, which states, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And God called the firmament heaven." So the firmament is not the dome. The firmament is what we call the sky or atmosphere. He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. So by his model, the sun, moon, and stars must all have an external plasma filament light source refracting in through the dome and waters above. Unfortunately, it would take 6 hours and 50 video editing hours to sit here explaining David LaPointe's primer fields and Brian's entire model, zeta pinches, plasma confinement systems, Vajras, Lorentz force, electromagnetics, magnetic field compression, magnetohydrodynamics, and on the list goes. You'll need to watch both of their series to fully understand his model, and I'll be the first to say I have some serious problems with it, but find it quite curious for the most part. I will show a short clip of David LaPointe's primer field plasma experiments, and then try to sum up what Brian claims is going to happen and when. If you're interested, you can research further into both topics yourself.
In the primer fields part 1, the plasma formations were often shown starting out with long arcs that gradually transitioned into a stable formation. This startup transition was due to a change in the vacuum level alone. Once the vacuum level is stabilized at the correct level for the plasma formation desired, the light emitted by the glowing plasma can be turned off and on instantly. So the electricity is not responsible for the fields that form the plasma formations. The electrical polarity determines how the plasma conforms to the fields, but the fields are not at all formed by the electricity. A reversal of the electrical current that causes the plasma to glow will cause an entirely different pattern to be revealed in the vacuum chamber. But this is due to a simple polarization change in the plasma, which reveals a different aspect of the same field structure. The electrical polarity is not causing the fields to change, it is just changing how the plasma responds to the fields. Here we see the instantaneous effects of this electrical polarity reversal, as the DC electrical supply is switched between polarity states, just as you would flip a light switch on and off.
Brian maintains that just as a figure skater spins tighter and faster as they pull their arms in, the plasma spiral in our circuit is doing the same from the final surge of electricity before the change of direction in current, or electric polarity reversal. The days will get shorter and the sun will disappear when the plasma event causes the directional flow of electrical current to change directions. During the changeover, the light we call the sun gets replaced by the plasma, and then the New World Order begins. The blue sky will be replaced by the red sky, or red dawn. And there shall be a new heaven and a new earth, literally. We all know the story of Jesus dying on the cross and being resurrected after 3 days, and its pagan origin of the sun standing still and not traveling any further south or lower in the ecliptic for 3 days on the December 21st solstice until it rises again and heads back north and higher in the sky on the 24th. He maintains that when the sun continues to travel south on the 21st instead of stopping, that will be the time of the MCO event, December 25th through January 31st, the 7 days of creation in Genesis. And that our Christmas trees and New Year's Eve fireworks are really there to remind us of what was and is coming again in our skies, and to celebrate another year of escaping it. But hey, at least we don't have biblical locust plagues upon us yet, right?
Oh! For the coming of the Son of Man.
Oh, stop that. This film is depressing enough.
One will be taken, the other will be...
Knock it off. We're done.
It will be as in the days of Noah.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And the days shall be